Battle-ready Bharat shows its might. India launches defense drills. Civil defense machinery mobilized. How to stay safe if there is a war. Air sirens and blackouts. What to do? India's message to enemies. We are ready. Top focus on 5 Live.
Hello and welcome to a special broadcast on India Today. I'm Gaurav Sawant. With me, some of the finest voices on matters military as we decode Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror that's been bleeding India for decades. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi very clearly saying that there will be unimaginable punishment that will be given not just to those terrorists but to terror backers. And is this a very clear and perhaps the clearest articulation that the terror backers are Pakistan Army or that Pakistan military jihad complex? So does this mean that India is all set to inflict punishment on Pakistan's armed forces? And does that mean that when Pakistan retaliates, because it's not if, but when Pakistan retaliates, India must be prepared? Not just the armed forces, but every Indian. Because every Indian has been a victim of Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, whether it was the 1993 Mumbai blast, where we lost 257 people, or the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, where we lost another 166, or the 2006 train blast, where we lost 200 people. So just count the number of civilians who've been killed. Much more than the number of armed forces personnel who fell in the line of fire battling Pakistan's military jihad complex. Now it's time for India's combined might to say enough is enough and respond. So how are these preparations happening? We'll give you those details. The experts that we have: Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General of Infantry, somebody who planted the first tricolour on Bilafondla at the Siachen Glacier, the highest point on Operation Meghdoot 1984, joins us on this special show. Sir, welcome. Captain D.K. Sharma, former spokesperson of the Indian Navy, someone who was commanding a drone squadron in the Indian Navy a long time back. And of course, India Today's Sandeep Unnithan, a dear friend who's covered Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror and war with me for decades. But first, I want to tell you about some of the preparations that are happening. What are the drills that were carried out? I want to give you details of those drills that were carried out. So first, the air raid siren. Our generation hasn't heard of the air raid siren. We've been the lucky ones. Of course, I've heard it. Sandeep's heard it when we were reporting the conflict in Israel and in Ukraine. But General Kulkarni must have heard it in the 65 and the 71 war. Absolutely. Captain D.K. Sharma must have heard it. But what are those air raid checks? What do those sirens mean? What is it that you need to do the moment you hear that air raid siren? I'll get you those details. Then implementation of blackout protocols. Is it still important in this day and age? 21st century warfare, when the adversary has GPS coordinates, exact latitude and longitude of our vital assets and vital points, do we still need a blackout when that alert goes up? Then the training of civilians, especially civil defense, measures that need to be taken in self-protection. The moment you hear the air raid siren, head to the nearest metro station, for example, if you have a metro station, an underground bunker, if you're in those border areas, or in the basement of a building, make sure it's secure, but that's where you need to head. The drill to camouflage vital assets and vital points and vital installations to protect them. Because when you look at those Pakistani missiles, there's a lot of territory in our country that those Pakistani missiles can target. Of course, you have the interceptors, but at the same time, you need to be prepared. Drill number 5 is, in case of an escalation, protect your national monuments. Now, India, very, very clearly, the implication is India is ready for every situation. As per that escalation ladder, there are multiple levels of that escalation ladder, more than 40 levels, but we will tell you about some of those. There's drill number 6, which is evacuation routes. What does that mean? If you're in a crowded area, how best can you get out? Ensure that the roads are safe for emergency vehicles to come in, whether it's ambulances or fire brigades. Do keep in mind, there could be subversive activities. There is the enemy within. We have porous borders. Enemies could come in from some of our porous borders. The Nepal border is open. Bangladesh is a porous border. Myanmar, the border remains a cause for concern at times. The enemy could come in through the porous borders and strike from behind us, strike the convoys, strike military installations. When a unit is deployed in battle, there's something called the rear. They could target the rear. They could target the convoys. So a lot of protocols have to be put in place and are already being put in place. Before I come to my guest for a wider analysis, I want you for a moment to listen in to what an air raid siren is like. We were reporting the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. I was reporting in Ukraine, and this, of course, is an image from Israel. We were in southern Israel, and that's when the air raid siren suddenly went out. And again, we were told to rush to the nearest bunker. Remember, there are many buildings here. There were no bunkers, so we went into a building basement. But just listen into what happened.
Running away to safety. Because
we are just being told that we're supposed, as they can hear, apparently there is some movement that is happening. There are people rushing into their homes. We're also trying to rush into their home right now. So, situation here is extremely tense. Let me now try and show. This is the house. This is a safety door that has been shut. This is a door that's completely been shut down now. As soon as those sirens were heard, show you this house. So it has a specially reinforced all metal door, all metal frame inside this door that's been shut. Ventilation point completely shut. And I also noticed that this is a reinforced window, specially reinforced window. So this cannot break with splinters. So it's almost like a bulletproof glass in this room. The air conditioning is on, it's reinforced concrete. So this what life is like right now in Israel. And how far are we from, sir? How far are we from the Lebanese border right now?
15 kilometers.
15 kilometers. So the moment that rocket is fired from that side, how much time do we have here?
We need 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
To run to the Mamad.
Just 15 seconds.
Yes.
Just 15 seconds.
So it takes, you have only 15 seconds to run to this shelter. This is the bomb shelter in this house. It's actually a very well constructed bomb shelter which has specially reinforced concrete walls.
Okay, हम लोग इस समय यहाँ से भागकर जा रहे हैं. We are running away to safety because the rocket alert has been sounded. Watch around. Be careful. Oops. So, we were here to do an interview, but suddenly there's a rocket alert and we have come to safety.
An air raid siren over Kyiv. Yet again, we're in the heart of Kyiv, and you can look around the air raid sirens. Once again, people are being asked to rush to evacuate vehicles. Security asking vehicles to get off the road. But these air raid sirens, despite Russia saying that there will be no action enters, the air raid sirens continue to go off. Of course, there have been air attacks and missile attacks in some other areas, but right now, air raid sirens in the heart of Kiev on the 14th day of war, it appears to be a cause for concern. Gaurav Sawant in Kiev, Ukraine, for India Today. So two reports of mine, one from Kiev in Ukraine and the other from Israel, in the southern part of Israel, where from the time the Hamas terrorists fire the rocket to the time they hit, the place I was in was Ashkelon in the southern part of Israel, the time to run to safety is barely 30 seconds. So in 30 seconds, you either run to safety, or if it's an airburst, and our experts will explain what an airburst is, that's a rocket that explodes in the air and thousands of burning iron shrapnel, they come at a speed of some 300 kilometers or more per hour, and it gets embedded in your head or your hand. If it gets embedded in your shoulder, it takes away your shoulder, it splits your head into two, any part of your body, and that limb is lost or life is lost. And that is why everyone just runs away to safety so that there's some cover over your head the moment an air raid siren goes off. This siren cannot be taken lightly. Why do we need these drills in India now? Look at what's happening. Pakistan's increased air activity and movement of their fighter jets. They could fire a rocket, they could fire a missile, an air-to-ground missile, or a surface-to-surface missile, a ship-to-surface missile. Anything could be fired. What India is doing right now is testing response of our systems, whether it's the ambulance, whether it's the fire service, whether it's emergency responders, or even people, civil defense, police, fire brigade. It's also to educate this generation and the next generation how being forewarned is being forearmed. When you're better prepared, you can just rush to any building that has some concrete structure on top that can protect you, preferable to get into a bunker or a basement of a building, because Pakistanis clearly will not fire bunker busters like the Americans did on Tora Bora Hills in 2001-2. Again, check coordination between the armed forces and the civilian disaster response agencies. I want to bring in our guests on this special broadcast. Apart from the three experts in the studio, Dr. Tara Kartha, former director of the National Security Council Secretariat, also joins us. But General Kulkarni, I want to begin by asking you, sir. You were there during the 1965 war and the 1971 war. Are we in 2025 building to see that there could be this kind of retaliation if will war happen?
Gaurav, thank you very much. I think they had none better experience than you. You've seen it for yourself, what happens when the air sirens go. Because there are some pre-air raid sirens, then just before the air raid, and then once the air raid is over. I've seen it, experienced it in 65, experienced it in 71, how we would make trenches, and if the siren was blown, how we would get into the trenches. If we couldn't get into the trenches, how we would lie down on the floor. In fact, absolutely. There were times when blackouts would be there, how we would use carbon papers that were there with us on window panes so that no lights could go out. There were people patrolling the cities to ensure that no one's house had any light. Street lights off, street sirens are blown. Now, you will find the traffic will just get onto one side. If you're closer to the metro station, get into the subways, save yourself. There are flyovers. There are so many flyovers. Where under the flyovers, there's a lot of space available. You utilize those, this thing. Now, some of the high-rise buildings have basements where you have car parkings done. You can utilize those to be able to get in. High-rise buildings also have, for fire, sirens. So I'm sure that coordination would be done so that they also blow their sirens so that people over the building know how to take cover.
Sandeep, that coordination is very important, and you yourself have been in the line of fire in Israel. So training is, even if it's that one-time training or two times training, that training could be that crucial factor between life and death, or God forbid, you lose a limb or your life if you're not trained.
Absolutely, Gaurav. Firstly, thanks for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be back. And you know, what happened in Israel was a population that was completely militarily trained. They were ready for this. So when Hezbollah fired that ballistic missile at the hotel that I was staying in, Tel Aviv, I could see the Israeli civilians literally picking up their belongings and rushing to their shelters, their bomb shelters. So I decided to follow them because they had militarily trained. I wasn't. And I could tell how quickly they had responded. In under a minute, they were all in their shelters. They were there in this safe spaces inside the hotel. And once the missile had been successfully intercepted by the Iron Dome interceptors, they were all back out in the open, and life continued as normal. So what I see happening here in India is you're looking at a population that has not seen this kind of conflict in half a century. True. So you're inoculating that population, you're preparing them for the worst. That there is a possibility that Pakistan, in some firmament of imagination, they could actually come back and try and target population centers like they did in the past. And this is to prepare our population for some eventuality like that, if, God forbid, it comes to that.
Because each time in the past, we've been caught off guard. Each time in the past, we were in that Aman Ki Asha mode when the Pakistanis were bleeding us, and they've bled our civilians more than they've bled our soldiers. So, Captain D.K. Sharma, Israel has the benefit of the Iron Dome system that in case the enemy fires a barrage of rockets and missiles, Israel fires its own missiles and interceptors for the benefit of our viewers, and Israeli missiles intercept the incoming missiles. At the same time, some of those interceptions could be very close to built-up areas and there could be loss of life and limb even in that. But do we have any protection? We will know. I presume we would know when the Pakistanis fire a missile. What kind of protection system do we have for military protection?
Okay, good evening, Gaurav, and good evening to all your viewers. Thanks for calling me. First of all, I must assure my countrymen that our defenses are impregnable. We have everything, whatever is required to neutralize the incoming threat. And we know what is the axis of it. Of course, that frontage is too big, but so are we well prepared insofar our air defenses are concerned, insofar our Indian Air Force is concerned, insofar the Navy and the Army is concerned. Now, when you're talking about a missile taking off from there are many indicators to it, many indicators to it the moment a missile is fired. So it will first break the horizon. Yeah. It will start coming up, whether it is a sea skimmer or whether it is, flying at 5 meters, 10 meters. It has to have terrain mapping and start moving. So at all the crucial places from wherever we know the launch pads are, you see, we know where the source is. So for that, we have already, mapped that what all routes it can take. And it is being sent to a particular VAVP, vital installation, or a point, or maybe a refinery, or an ammunition dump, or the center of power, Delhi. So it is fortified. And it is fortified in layers. Okay. So it might happen that somebody else has missed it, but the next man will get it. And we have radars, we have satellites, we have aircraft which are now moving up, as you know it. So the space awareness, the domain awareness is very high and it will be maintained. So it is not that we will be surprised. Yes, once they take any action, then you will see the reaction. But I can tell you, all these things are in place and we are well prepared, well exercised and looking out for it.
And I want our viewers to know that. Thank you very much for telling me that and telling our viewers that. I want our viewers to know that when the Pakistanis fire a missile, we will know the moment that missile has been fired. And in 21st century, Sandeep, and before I bring in Dr. Tarakartha, in the 21st century, the moment that missile is fired, we know the trajectory. We know where it's going to hit. Yes. So that missile, a counter missile can go and neutralize that. We have aircraft that can fire missiles that can take it down. There are multiple ways of taking that missile down. But how much time do we have from fire to hit?
It's a matter of minutes, Gaurav, really. And it entirely depends on the kind of missile that Pakistan chooses to fire at us. If it's a long-range ballistic missile, for instance, fired at a distant target in India, then we would have a little more time. Because the minute the missile is launched, we will have picked up that, our radars would have picked up that missile launch, because this is a capability that we have built for our nuclear weapons alertness, so that we could counter their nuclear tipped missiles. Now, this capability will come in handy in a situation like this. If a missile were to be launched, it would be picked up immediately, and the alerts would be flashed across the country. It would go to all of the cities, and they would predict the trajectory of that missile and deduce where it would actually impact, which city or which VA or VP or which missile base it is going to target. All of that calculations will be done by the Indian Air Force, which is actually the nodal agency for air defense, and BMD, which is why they have the S-400 missile systems. And those missile systems, they've already been deployed, and they have extremely powerful long-range radars and, of course, missile interceptors that can knock down those missiles before they reach those targets that they intend to hit.
There's another aspect. The moment the Pakistanis launch a missile, the point from which that missile has been launched would be taken down immediately. What is extremely significant, when we were covering the Kargil war in 1999, we did not have those weapon locating radars, the American ANTPQ-37s that India so desperately wanted. Unfortunately, because of bureaucratic delays, the Pokhran tests, a lot of other reasons, we did not have the ANTPQ-37s, which are the weapon locating radars. The moment an artillery shell is fired, the weapon locating radar triangulates that location and tells you where that RT shell has come from, and you can launch what is known as CB or counter bombardment and destroy that location. And that is why you have the fire, forget, shoot and scoot systems. You fire your rocket and you move from that place so that when the counter bombardment comes, you're better prepared. And I'll come to General Kulkarni to respond on that in just a moment. But for the benefit of viewers who are joining us, what is that air raid siren like? What are drills that are extremely important that you must know about? You must familiarize yourself. Remember, being forewarned is being forearmed. In the Indian Air Force, as all my guests will tell me, their motto is, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. So you sweat now. You learn these drills now. Remember what Arjun used to do. Arjun used to fire his bow and arrow each time. He used to practice so much that in war he was perfect and the best. That's exactly what we as Indians need to do. Prepare ourselves very well so that the moment you hear the air raid siren, you can go to safety. It becomes your second nature. Not only should you go yourself, take the elderly with you. Take the children with you. Guide them. Do not panic. It's very essential. The less you panic, the more calm you remain, the better leader you emerge in these situations. The long wail, what is that long wail all about? What's the short burst all about? So that long wail of that siren, when you hear that long siren, and we'll just play that out for you in a moment, that long wail of the siren is to tell you, beware, there's threat incoming. The short burst is like an all clear, now that's been intercepted. What do you need to do? You should identify the nearest location where you need to go. Whichever is the nearest metro station, for example, if that has a bunker, an underground, go there. If there's a building with a basement, go there. Those are safe areas. In Israel, of course, they've built bunkers, concrete bunkers on the side of the road every couple of 100 meters in some locations and every couple of kilometers in others. So you head to that nearest, perhaps the government should also do signposting where you can head. I'm told there's an app that is coming up. You will get that information shortly. That app will tell you the nearest location where you should go. What is the blackout drill all about? I'll tell you about that, but I want to bring in Dr. Tara Kartha. Dr. Tara Kartha, are we panicking when we're doing all this? Or is it better that our civilians know, our people in our country know the nature of the threat, they're better prepared to deal with it? Only then can we adopt the whole of the nation approach to defeat Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, madam?
See, for one thing, it is, I think, 244 districts, if I'm right, Gaurav.
Absolutely right.
We have a total of 800 plus. So it is only a part of the country to which it applies. Number two is, if you look at the act itself, and I'm just saying this as a matter of fact, is that in 2010, it also, this whole civil defense exercise also included disaster preparedness. So that was inserted into the act. So what we're doing now is good anyway. Regardless of whether there's a war coming, there's not a war coming, this integration is something we should be doing annually. Because people need to know this, that,
Yes.
and I don't want to go into the whole climate change business, but that is one. This fact of people, I'm just a little apprehensive that people shouldn't get into a panic saying that, oh my God, this is happening. What we are doing is what, the Modi government has taken this very carefully, step by careful step. And each one is to see that, are you ready here? Are you ready here? And at each point, is being done in a very, very mature, calculated manner. So this is just one more step which we are using to make sure that people, like you said, need to know these drills. I mean, that's something which is very basic. Thank God it's not an everyday affair for us as it is in Israel, and then one hopes it never gets that way. However, I also want to say that, the chances of us reaching that point where we will have air drills, air sirens blasting off and all this at present is pretty low. Because your deterrence capability, as the PM once said, he says, we have, I don't, he said, he was talking of firecrackers, if you remember. He said, our nuclear weapons are not for Diwali. So there is a certain amount of deterrence in place. There is a certain capability in place. Pakistan knows if it goes for war, at this point, it is finished. Not physically. I'm not talking of nuclear weapons at all. I'm talking of their economic capability. Someone has to finance them. And they don't have the money. IMF is a bank. It's not going to give them money to go and fight a war. Where will the money come from? It has to come from China. Will China give them? I mean, I just read that Pakistan has increased its defense budget
By
I think
18%.
yesterday.
Yes.
They last a couple of months back, they allocated themselves an additional some 40 billion rupees or something. So there is a huge amount of money coming in, which
Okay.
I can't really trace where it is coming from because we've studied these documents. So the money is coming. Now, whether Chinese are giving them or not, we don't know. But
Okay.
that I think is the key. But however, to answer your question, this exercise is very good in any way. Whether there is a war, there's not a war, you need to know these things. It brings a certain discipline to society, which you will admit we badly need. As a society, we really, really need some discipline
Very
among us.
interesting. You should know. I'm glad you pointed this out. Two aspects. That one, this is a drill that's being carried out in certain districts, and we will point that out on the map for you in a while. Which are the border districts where this is happening? Which are depth areas where this is happening? Because Pakistan would want to target the vital assets and vital points in our country. I want to, for a moment, before I bring in General Kulkarni, take a look at the blackout drill now. In 21st century warfare, do we still require a blackout drill? What does the blackout drill mean? So Pakistan is carrying out a series of exercises across. It's also using its drones very extensively. It's carrying out surveillance. We are told that a lot of this effort is also to check what is our emergency infrastructure and backup systems like? What are our sirens and communications like? How are our systems operating, let's say, in a degraded form or a compromised environment? For example, if there's a huge cyber attack on the country, can our systems still perform? Because remember, in this MDO or multi-domain operations, future warfare is all about multi-domain operations. Attacks will not just be Army, Navy, Air Force. Cyber attacks, they are huge. An attempt could be made to bring down the entire banking system or the railway system or the transport system. And all of this is very dangerous. Electricity system, let the entire grid go down, a country in total darkness. So all of these are areas where you check and recheck your system. So how do you prepare for the blackout drill? Now, as a resident in a locality, if you're one of these 250-odd districts across the country that have been identified, draw curtains or blinds on all windows and turn off electricity or cover all the light sources so that no light reflects outside the window, including your television or computer, even your mobile phone. If you're using a mobile phone, make sure that the windows are all dark, your curtains are drawn, no light should leak out. Also, keep in mind, you must have a torch with spare batteries with you. You must have multiple candles in different rooms of your homes and a matchbox. Also, when there's a blackout announced, avoid stepping out of the house at that point of time, because there will be no street light at that time. General Kulkarni, in 21st century, is a blackout still essential?
Absolutely. Despite all that we have, despite what the enemy will have, blackout is a must. Here's also a way out, finding out which are the sleeper cells. You never know, there'll be some sleeper cells wanting to communicate, wanting to convey to the enemy that this is the area where they need to. So blackout drills are must, irrespective of whatever the kind of warfare. Firstly, involving citizens, psychologically preparing citizens that yes, there is an emergency
And
in
this
which
is a
we
whole of the
all
nation
need
approach.
to now be a part of it. And you rightly said, in a multi-domain operation, anything and everything. Aim is to protect us citizens. And when we have the ability, unlike countries like Israel, where the threat is so high that every building has a bunker and everybody can take shelter. In a place like India, where probably for the last 50, 60 years, nobody has ever seen such a thing happening. And now that we're preparing the citizens, we might well be able to tell them. So be it blackouts, be it sirens, be able to find out, even within the society, who are those black sheep who might not adhere to these kind of things.
But Captain Sharma, in today's day and age, the enemy would also have access to satellites and would have the exact latitude and longitude of the VAVPs or the vital assets and vital points that he may want to target. Do we still need to protect civilian areas in terms of residential homes and draw curtains and have a blackout?
Gaurav, what we are talking is now a serious effort by the government to bringing the whole nation. So this is not a whole of government approach, this is a whole of nation approach to make people aware that if, and I'm saying if things go from bad to worse, and if there is a retaliatory kind of a attack on us, we should not panic. We should remain calm because we have been trained, which will start from tomorrow onwards, that what a siren will sound like, what a blackout means, and what you are supposed to do. And I will request all the citizens who are watching it, please do pass it on to the people who are not so, fortunate to listen to all this, what is happening. So it is all of us. Look, if we are complying with whatever the government is saying and somebody else is not, we are defeated because the area is lit up. You see, everyone has to come together and follow it to the T, what the administration, the government is telling us, because this is the need of the hour, to remain together and follow the instructions fully from start to finish and practice it.
So we are not overreacting when we are going through these drills. Sandeep, in your appreciation, the manner in which the government is trying to prepare civilians, whether it's happening in border areas, because you and I have reported from those border areas when Pakistani artillery would target some of these areas, let's say in Poonch or Rajouri or Krishna Ghati sector, or in Uri and Baramulla, north of Pir Panjal. We've seen this along the LC. Will this now spread? Is there an apprehension to Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat, or what about depth areas? That's just a precautionary measure.
It's a precautionary measure entirely, Gaurav. And like you mentioned, the citizens, our citizens living along the LOC and even along the border in Jammu, the international border, they've been shelled, they've been targeted with artillery attacks, and they've built, they're very resilient people there on the border. They've built bunkers, they know the drill. And the minute there is a bombardment, they go straight in that. I've covered that many times, and so have you. And we've seen the way people over there have reacted. But this is something that our population in the depth areas have not seen, they've not experienced, they've not felt. And it's time, as Captain Sharma said, it is for an all-of-nation approach that we need to be forewarned of the possibility of any such attack being carried out in across the hinterland. You cannot rule out any such attacks, because who would have thought, for instance, a few decades back, that Mumbai would be targeted so relentlessly by the Pakistani deep state. So it stands to reason that every part of India that is or around a vital area or vital point, or VA or a VP, needs to be on guard, and the people have to be trained. They need to know the drill, because like you mentioned yourself, I mean, it is better to sweat in war, sweat in peace than bleed in war. And this is what the government is doing, ensuring that the citizens sweat in peace, so that we are forewarned, we are forearmed, and we are better prepared if for God forbid that day comes. Yes.
This is also a signal, Dr. Tara Kartha, that India is sending out to Pakistan that now its whole of India approach, you've tried your worst, because Pakistan, and if we were to understand Pakistan carefully, their army is just terrorists who are not wearing uniform. General Asim Munir is not very different from a Hafiz Muhammad Saeed, as radical, as Islamist, and using terror as an instrument of state policy. So the Pakistan army is just Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed or Hizbul Mujahideen who have access to fighter planes, tanks, and sadly the nuclear weapon, Dr. Tara Kartha.
Absolutely, Gaurav. I would not have agreed with you with this about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, but now I do. Under Asim Munir, this whole army has shifted gears. They've gone into he himself, his history, you know what he's like, the kind of, his background. There is increased use of, Islamic teachings. I mean, which, by the way, by itself is not a problem, but given their total, like you said, this merging of terrorism with an army is very, very detrimental to the army itself. And what it could do, you don't know what they'll do. So this, I think, like you said, the drills are an indication that we are going to stand our ground. We are not, we are ready to go with this. Come what may, we'll give back twice as what we get, but we are not afraid. The whole country, like Captain DK has said, we are standing together on this. And I think that's a very, very important message to go out at this point of time.
Now I want to talk about India's weapons of war. They can either deter that radical Islamist state sponsor of terror, Pakistan, or Pakistan can be at the receiving end of its firepower. I want to talk about the P-8Is, which are the flying frigates. I want to talk about India's latest, the newest stealth frigate, INS Tamal. It's a stealth frigate that's armed with the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile. I also want to talk about the stratospheric airship platform at 17 kilometers altitude or 55,000 feet altitude. You have this helium-filled balloon that can look deep inside enemy territory and make that entire battlefield very transparent. And we have the best experts to tell you how these weapons and systems are an absolute, not just a game changer, but give a major edge to India. Let me now tell you about INS Tamal, the stealth frigate just coming from Russia. It's a major, major force multiplier as far as the armed forces are concerned. It's under the Russia-India Defense Pact. It's armed with the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile. It's built with the advanced stealth technology. INS Tamal is engineered for dominance of the seas in modern naval warfare. It has a very low radar signature. That's the best part about a stealth frigate. It can't be seen on enemy radars very easily. The strategic edge that INS Tamal is about to give India. I'll tell you more about it, but first, this report.
Amid war clouds, India ramping up its sea fighting capabilities. Silent, agile, and deadly with stealth prowess. Meet Indian Navy's deadliest sea prowler warship. Tamal warship from Russia, laced with radar evading capabilities and ability to fire the BrahMos missiles, is set to vastly upgrade India's firepower. India is set to welcome Tamal, the world's most advanced multi-role stealth-guided missile frigates, built at Russia's Yantar shipyard by 28th of this month. Tamal is designed for precision strikes and high maneuverability. It can cruise at speeds of up to 55 km per hour and has an operational range of 3,000 kilometers on a single mission. The first of the two Russian-built frigates, INS Tushil, has already joined the Indian Navy. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh personally inducted it during his visit to Russia on December 9, 2024. India has also pressed the P-8I Poseidon maritime surveillance aircraft, satellites and MQ-9B Sea Guardian drones into the Arabian Sea operations. tracking Pakistan Navy fuel supplies, flight operations, military drill and naval routes across a wide arc. Not just warships, India is enhancing its naval armory too. DRDO and Indian Navy conduct combat firing with reduced explosive of indigenous multi-influence ground mine. The underwater naval mine is developed by the Naval Science and Technological Lab, Visakhapatnam. The mine system vastly enhances undersea warfare capabilities of the Indian Navy. With Shivani Sharma in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Captain Sharma, how would Pakistan right now be viewing the induction of INS Tamal with its BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles becoming a part of the Indian Navy? And you have some more good news to give us.
You see, Gaurav, first of all, these are the stealth frigates which were, we started procuring from Russia. And the final two of them, we have now got, when we will have the full number, it will be 10.
Yes.
So 2 are being constructed and built in Goa shipyard. 8 have been imported or acquired or procured from Russia. 3 came in early 2000. Then in 2010 around, we got 3. And now Tushil and Tamal are coming. Very deadly platforms. They are stealth frigates, small in size, but fully packed. They have missiles, they have air defense, they have surface-to-air missiles, they have shafts, they have rockets, you name it. And they carry a helicopter. So this is the role of a frigate. And I must also, in the same breath tell you that today Indian Navy has got a stature where the world navies are envious of us, want to exercise with us. Because you only exercise where you have an opportunity to learn something.
Yes.
And we do not, are throwing our weight around. We are in a kind of a collaborative engagement with all the navies in this part of the world so that we learn the best practices.
Okay, but Sandeep, when you have INS Tamal added to the fleet for the adversary, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare because of the kind of weapons and systems the Indian Navy has. We've seen what the Army did in surgical strikes. We've seen what the Mirage 2000s did with the Balakot airstrikes. Many say it's Ab Ki Baar Navy ka war. And even the blockade of the Arabian Sea, whether it's Gwadar or Karachi or Pasni or Ormara, Pakistan would be a nightmare for Pakistan.
It would be a nightmare indeed, Gaurav, and the Tamal actually just adds to that nightmare. It's one more additional part of that nightmare. And the fact that, as Captain DK was mentioning, that it's a frigate, but actually I would like to call it a destroyer. Because of the kind of weapons that it carries. It's one of the world's most heavily armed frigates. I mean, this is the kind of, outfitting that normally destroyers carry. And I'm sure there are very few frigates in the world that are as heavily armed as that warship. It can fight the enemy in all 3 dimensions. It can bring down aircraft. It can destroy warships. It can attack targets deep inland. It can attack submarines. It's a very, very potent platform, Gaurav. And this is a platform that was literally designed by the Indian Navy. The requirements that the Indian Navy gave to the Russian designers were then upgraded and put into that weapons platform. And that's what you see here, which is the 8th in the series of the Krivak class frigates that we started buying from Russia over a decade ago. That is the epitome of that Indian design input that's come in to pack these frigates with destroyer-like loads and to actually accelerate Pakistan's nightmare in the North Arabian Sea. And that's one more part of that nightmare, Gaurav. One more ship packed with, a frigate packed with a destroyer's weapons load. So that is something that they'll be factoring into their...
I want our viewers for a moment to take a look at a map that I'm about to show you, and a map that's giving sleepless nights to Pakistani war planners, because the next weapon of war that we're talking about is the P-8I long-range maritime reconnaissance aircraft, but it's more than just a reconnaissance aircraft. So you saw Tamal. Tamal is a frigate. It's a stealth frigate. The P-8Is are known as the flying frigates. That's right. It's on a Boeing 737 platform. It has long-range radars. It's also capable of downing an enemy ship or an enemy submarine. take a look at the P-8Is that's flying in Indian territory or over international waters, but in its arc is the entire Pakistani coast. So no ship of the Pakistan Navy, no submarine of the Pakistan Navy, no aircraft of the Pakistan Air Force can escape the P-8I. And isn't that a horrible nightmare if you're Pakistani, Sandeep?
Absolutely, Gaurav. I mean, that brings back memories of 1971, where the Indian Navy carried out the world's largest ship-to-ship missile attacks. In the span of less than 30 minutes, they had destroyed a destroyer, a minesweeper, and a merchant ship carrying ammunition for the Pakistan Navy. That's one of the most devastating attacks that was launched, which was repeated a few days later with Operation Python.
Yes.
You had Operation Trident and you had Operation Python. The entire Pakistan Navy was bottled up in harbor. Their ships were being attacked at will. Their fuel refineries were being set ablaze.
Karachi was burning for 11 days.
Karachi was burning for 11 days. And that is when you saw a very comprehensive naval defeat of the kind that you have not seen of any country post-1947. So while you had this encirclement of 93,000 prisoners of war in East Pakistan, you had the Pakistan Navy that was completely bottled up, unable to move out of Karachi in 1971, Gaurav. So that brings back memories of 1971. That the minute the Pakistani naval planners see Indian warships, they see the P-8Is, they see them out there in the North Arabian Sea, it brings back very bad memories and very persistent nightmares, if I may add.
You know, Captain Sharma, if you were to be the red team for a moment, if you were a Pakistan Navy admiral right now, when you look at the Indian Navy ships, the submarines, the aircraft, the entire gamut of our naval might, would they have learned lessons from 1971? Their ships are already out, their submarines, some of them are already out. Will we be in a position to repeat 1971? Should there be a requirement? Can we do better? Or are they better prepared now?
Well, if I'm a red admiral or a red naval officer over there, it'll be totally foolhardy on my part to even recommend anything moving out of the harbor, because the watchful eyes of this long-range maritime reconnaissance, and you did not add, anti-submarine warfare. It
Oh,
is
absolutely. ASW.
LRMR ASW aircraft.
Yeah.
The very fact that the name is so big, it carries that much of stuff. You name the harpoons, you got rockets, you got torpedoes, you got depth charges, you got sonar buoys, and I'm not talking of the EW suite, which it is carrying, and the capability to scan the surface of the ocean, on surface, underwater, and pass the picture to the Maritime Operations Center, which will relay the picture to everybody. We are in a network-centric era where the whole Navy is wired. Not even the Navy. We exchange with Air Force, Army, everybody is in sync. So whether you're on the eastern side, western side, picture remains the same. And
look at this, that the P-8Is, General Kulkarni, were also used by the Indian Army during the Galwan standoff. That is how potent this weapon platform is.
There's no denying the fact. When you're talking, Gaurav, no wonder Pakistan is talking of the weapons of deterrence. They're so scared just seeing the weapons of war of India that they have no way. They're just wanting to instill that fear or be able to tell the world that they have the weapon of deterrence, which is, they call it ek pav or adha kilo.
And that's Gidar Bhapki. Pakistan knows it cannot fight India. Militarily, we are far, far superior to Pakistan. We've had some analysts and commentators who say we are 10 times superior to the Pakistan armed forces. But let me tell you about the new technology that we are making in India and using in India. The Defense Research and Development Organization, for example, along with the Indian Navy, successfully undertook combat firing of an indigenously developed, designed and used multi-influence ground mine, or the MIGM. What is the MIGM? It's an advanced underwater mine for the Indian Navy. It's designed to enhance Indian Navy's capabilities against modern stealth ships and submarines. What is the significance? It's designed to target the adversary's stealth warships. It's designed to seek and destroy the enemy's submarine. It destroys a target with a 1 1 ton high explosive charge. It has 5 modes to trigger the explosive. What are these 5 modes? Acoustic, magnetic, pressure, UEP and ELFE. And I'll tell you more about what this actually means. But I also want to quickly tell you about another force multiplier which brings transparency into this battlefield. India has successfully conducted the first flight test of the stratospheric airship platform. Now, this is a huge helium-filled airship. It's like a blimp. It's designed to fly at 17 kilometers or 55,000 feet altitude. That's the stratosphere, not the troposphere, the stratosphere. And unlike regular aircraft, so even if you have your AWACS or you have the P8Is, it needs to come back to refuel. You need to rest the engines. But when you have this blimp up in the air, at 55,000 feet, it can stay up in the air, not for days. It can stay up in stratosphere for weeks. It's better than a fighter jet in terms of scanning the adversary. Now, it's an airborne spy airship. It can stay airborne for weeks. It flies at over 17 kilometers, some say 20 kilometers. It carries an electro-optical payload. It can spy on enemy positions and transmit those images back real-time. Sandeep, an absolute game changer that we missed in Kargil and post-Kargil. It can look at multiple targets simultaneously, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. This is the capability that we so sorely missed in Kargil 26 years ago, and this is the capability that we are building up. The stratospheric airship platform is one. There is the high-altitude pseudo-satellite as well, which is another. But this stratospheric airship platform has certain advantages over the HAPS because it carries a larger payload, Gaurav. It can carry a payload of up to 50 kgs, I'm told. It can carry an ELINT payload. It can carry an electro-optical payload. It is like a persistent eye in the sky. You don't have to keep flying up, keep flying drones and spy planes. You have this blimp out there like a god's eye view of the enemy territory. It's monitoring them day and night through all weather conditions. This is a capability that India will build up in the years ahead because, like we know, Gaurav, we've got friendly neighbors on both sides, to the west and to the north.
And it helps us in both places. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining me on this India Today special broadcast. Remember, this is made in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat technology, so we can have as much as we want and keep modifying and upgrading to suit our capabilities. And ELINT, electronic intelligence, SIGINT, signal intelligence. There's a lot that we are doing right now. The battlefield is transparent, the enemy virtually naked. We'll keep an eye on that big story. That is all I have for you on this India Today special broadcast. Many thanks for watching.